Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday afternoon meet and greet with atheists from all over the world. This afternoon, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Keaton. Keaton, good afternoon. Welcome.
Hey, good morning from me.
Yeah, you had to get up quite early for this one.
A little
But
bit. I got my coffee.
yeah, always helps. Always helps. Yeah, so I mean, I ran into you on TikTok, and yeah, I just love the content, and I said to myself, we have to speak to this guy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just started it up like a few months ago, so it's been
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. No, it's great fun. I mean, I've also recently started playing around on there, and
Yeah, it's a good platform. I like it.
yeah, yeah, it's good. So, Keaton, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, like, what's your religious background?
Yeah,
If you were raised religious at all, and just paint the landscape for us, so to say.
sure. Yeah, so I live in Utah. I don't know if you guys know out there, but that's the home of the Mormons. So, yeah, I was raised as a Mormon. As a child, I was actually very devout. I really believed in it, and it's funny. I was in such a bubble. I didn't really even know that other beliefs existed. Like, I just kind of
Me
thought
too.
that. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I didn't realize there were not Mormons out there. But so yeah, as I grew up in junior high, I kind of became a typical angsty teenager, and I didn't stop believing, but I just didn't care. I didn't want to go to church because I just wanted to do teenager stuff. And um, but yeah, as I continued to get older, actually, when I turned 18, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go serve a mission now. It's time to get serious, get back to the faith, and ultimately and luckily realized that I was doing that for the wrong reason. I had just had a heartbreak and I wanted to get out of my small town. It wasn't really because I actually believed. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I went to college instead of a mission, and that's really when the mind expansion started happening. So I'm sure you've heard that a lot.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how when people encounter just a little bit more information than what's contained within the religion,
Yeah.
the religion sort of like becomes compressed. Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, and then it kind of being raised that way really affected my critical thinking a lot. So even in college, I kind of went down this hippy dippy trail of you know, and not to judge anyone who believes things, but I believed in a lot of crystals and just the universe is the soul. And yeah, I went through a lot of conspiracies. I was a huge conspiracy theorist and really had to pull myself out of all those. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. The weird thing is, when when I first left religion behind and I ditched religion, it became it was almost like there was a void, and I needed to fill that with something, so anything that was,
Hmm.
like you said,
Yep.
conspiracy theories, crystals, anything that was like, hey, wow, that was, I
Exactly. No, that
just automatically radiated towards
and
that.
still now I would say that the reason I'm so loud and atheist is because I was so obsessed with the church and
Yeah,
they really harp it into you, this is the one true thing in life. And so still
yeah,
to this day I'm I want to figure out what's true, and I just kind of
exactly.
have that drive.
Exactly, yeah, and you'll find that most atheists, I mean, at least that I encounter, are of the same mindset. We care about what's true, we care about
Yeah.
what's real, not about what makes you feel good necessarily.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So, um, after college, like, was there a specific moment, like an identifiable point where you can say, okay, this was the linchpin, or was it maybe just a gradual process of letting go of it bit by bit? That was the case for me.
Yeah, it was definitely gradual, like over
Yeah,
decades.
yeah,
It took a long time, and I would say that college definitely is what made me more comfortable with not liking religion, I guess. I was still very spiritual and all that, but I was like, I know that religion's not the way for me. So it at least started there. But really recently, just listening to debates and stuff over the past 5 years made me realize that I was an atheist like a decade ago, and I didn't know it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't really
yeah,
know what the word actually meant and stuff like that.
exactly. Mm.
So, yeah, kind of more recently, I guess the linchpin would be listening to debates and really learning what the words mean. And then I'm like, okay, I'm an atheist, and I have been
Yeah,
for a long time.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's crazy. The funny thing is, it's always only in retrospect. Like when when you've gone through the process and you look at it critically, and you think, I think to myself, like, I can't believe that I actually didn't see that.
right. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's so so crystal clear that it's a fabrication, or that something doesn't flow logically from one thing to another. But when you're caught up in the moment, in those
Right.
belief systems and ways of thinking, it's so religion becomes so entrenched within us that we don't notice those glaring flags, and the red light, that's the sirens going off right next to your head.
Right. And beliefs in general, like we were talking about conspiracy stuff. Like when I think back about those years, like I definitely had a lot of just cognitive dissonance, and like I didn't, associate the things properly. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
So any you mentioned the debates were one of the big influences, which I also share. For me, I mean, like listening to the greats, like the Hitchens, the Madeline
yeah.
Mario, whereas those debates
Oh, yeah.
were really influential. And I was very struck by how fearless and unapologetic
Right.
these topics are approached. And
Yeah.
that really left an impact on me. So was there any specific person or organization that initially that struck out to you that made such an impact?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was on the little bit younger tail end of Hitchens and people like that, but the first show I ever listened to was the Atheist Experience, with Matt Dillahunty. I'm sure you guys know about
Yeah.
He's pretty abrasive. That's not really like my style of talking to people, but it helped me. So, there's a method to everyone's madness, I think. And then after that, I really like debates more than anything. And I saw you had Cause on, actually, and I love modern day debate. And sometimes he'll monitor. Yeah. So I was really stoked when I looked at your channel. I was like, oh, dang, they had Cause on? So,
he's amazing. Yeah. No, I recall.
So, for sure.
Yeah, I heard it said, I can't remember who said it or where I heard it, but it's always struck with me where someone said, debate is the grindstone upon which you sharpen the mind. And it was, it's always stuck with me, and it's true, because it's a skill that I always admire when somebody, is able to think extremely critically, to dissect all the bullshit in the arguments and just lay it out in a very clear and understandable presentation. Like I said, it's a skill that I admire.
I'm a firm believer in respecting people, but being able to criticize ideas. And And we need to detach ourselves from our ideas and not be offended if, someone's criticizing your beliefs, because you're so much more than your beliefs. Like, we can love people, but yeah.
But my feelings.
Yeah. Well, and
your ideas hurt my feelings.
Right. I think it's just a human thing, we just get prideful about what we believe.
I think we build our identities around our ideas,
Right.
it's so it's understandable that people are sensitive and touchy around them.
Yeah. Well, and I love the online debate scene for the most part, but I will say some of it has gotten a little too just dramatic and showman, when it's like, I like the debates that are truly talking about ideas and not getting caught up in, not getting caught up in the debate bro shit.
The YouTube drama.
Yeah, like leave that behind.
Yeah, some of these channels, like you just know what to expect. It's like this the first show. It's like, let's talk smack about this one, and then the next show after that is my response video to the person I talked smack about yesterday, talking smack about me.
Right. Well, and part of the problem is it's what gets views. People just love the drama and
dumpster fires.
Yep. I have to admit, I do like some dumpster fires. I don't avoid them, so.
Yeah, me too. I call myself a connoisseur of what's it called? Schadenfreude.
What's that?
Schadenfreude. It's a term where you derive pleasure out of the misfortune of others. So I'm a connoisseur of that. So whenever I see, I don't know, I think we are, as people, we just naturally drawn to gawk at accidents. Like when we drive past an accident.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, you see the lights and you're like, what's going on over there?
You see the carnage and you just like,
you
drive past it.
That's true. That's like what my whole Reddit profile is about. I'm looking at all the different crazy shit going on in the world. That's my space.
Yeah. I was recently, I was also fascinated, just to touch a little bit on Mormonism and its influence in the US. I was watching this series with, I think it's Bryce Blackennagel or something like that, who did a series with somebody, and he was also just going through the early history, and it really struck me how there was a definite flavor of cult that came off it in the beginning, and like all the different issues, they had like this very strong identity, and unified themselves amongst these principles like polygamy, and they had like a prophet and a specific idea, and there's so many parallels that you can draw between that and the way these cult religions now start up. Like you see people going to the Amazon rainforest and drinking Kool-Aid by the dozens and dying.
Right. I heard a good quote once that was like, the difference between a cult and religion is that a cult has their prophet is still living, basically, because most religions, they've died. And that's like one of the biggest thing in Mormonism, is that they always have a living prophet to guide.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
That's great.
For the most part, the culture of like normal Mormons, I guess, it doesn't seem cult-like. People are really good to each other, and it's a good community and stuff. But technically, fundamentally.
From the outside looking in, it looks very wholesome, and
it is for the most part. I mean, there's definitely, like, when you get trapped in that bubble, you have your community looking down on you and judging your every little move. So there's that aspect. But I don't think they realize that, like, so there's fundamentalist LDS that still live in Utah, and really they follow the doctrine more than just the regular Mormons. Like, they follow the actual doctrine, and with polygamy and all that stuff. So it's interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, like I don't know why. I mean, if from a very young age, religion and religious beliefs, and that it always fascinated me. Always gravitated towards it.
Hmm.
And it's only it's only now that I've let go of religion about a decade ago, that that I'm able to actually just take a step back and look at it, get a holistic view of it, and
Right.
excuse me. Always strikes me how I don't know, it's like like that look you get, like when you see a dead fish or a dead animal, their eyes like glazed over, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I
I've had
call it
some conversations like that.
the glazed apathetic leech. They just the lights are on, but nobody's home. Like and it's very strange. It's this mindset of accepting reality as it is according to your beliefs, not the other way around of accepting your
Right.
beliefs as they are according to
Well,
reality.
it's interesting that you say the eyes glazed thing because in my experience talking to people like the Mormons that I interact with and stuff, they usually understand my arguments really well, and they like that. They're like, I get where you're coming from. It's like rather it's more of like a super cognitive dissonance where they're like, that makes a lot of sense, but like faith, basically,
Yeah,
It's like that's
yeah.
always the answer.
So you're like, la, 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 I
It's
hear
like,
you, I hear you.
right. Yeah, it's interesting, but we
Amazing. And tell
weren't.
me, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the way we really evolved as a species, like, we didn't really evolve to be skeptical. So
No.
it kind of makes sense, like, why most people believe things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's true. If you were that person on the savannah that saw a rustling in the grass and you said like, oh, wait a minute, let's go and see if this is
Let's go
actually an
check it
animal.
out. Right. And you're more likely to die if it was an animal.
Yeah, you're more likely to be, a lion's lunch.
Yep, exactly.
Activism, Keaton. This is one thing that we in our local community try to inspire our members as well. Is to just get involved. Get involved and do something because as we like an old brandy. Like the longer you leave it in the wood, the more it just saturates and matures. And with atheism as well, there's this element of apathy that seeps in. People become completely indifferent towards religion and indifferent towards these issues because ultimately they don't really care that much about them. So
Right.
we try to inspire our members. If there's anything that they can be active about. Like I saw some of your TikToks where you guys were going for protests and everything, and I find that really inspiring because that to me is a sign of a person that takes an active role in their community and in their environment. Like if you can tell us a little bit about some of the activism that you are involved, and I mean it can be as easy as as small as just being a voice on the internet for reason.
Sure.
Or but just give us your view on that.
Yeah, and actually don't be fooled. This is very new for me. So,
Yeah.
I just recently started going. I mean, obviously you've heard the news in our country about the Roe v. Wade stuff. And, I just like, I was very apathetic too. I was like, who cares, whatever. And starting to see this boiling point in our country where I'm seeing more and more Christians thinking that they need to put their religion into the government, and that terrifies me. And that was honestly the reason why I started the TikTok. I was like, I'm sick of like not at least attempting to have a voice. Like, who cares how big it gets, whatever. Like, I want to at least try to put my voice out there. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily like label myself an activist just because I'm not like super diehard about going out to the community. But yeah, when it's big enough, like the Roe v. Wade thing, I'm out there. If they overturn gay marriage too, like I'm gonna be out there. Like that shit's super important. Probably shouldn't have waited this long to be an activist. It's kind of what you were saying, the saturation thing. So
yeah. No, it's true, and the thing is, we in South Africa, we've got a very long history of people, having that political activist gene within their makeup, and I just, I've always been, one of those people who tend to be vocal about things, like even if I'm not. Even I don't know what, there's just something in me that I'm incapable of sitting with injustice. Like whenever I see injustice or something, it really grates my my inner essence. Like I have to do something about it. And so excuse me. Yeah. So like I said, it's I find it extremely admirable when I see a person that's willing to stand up and speak up. That's basically the thing that I'm, that I'm getting at most. Yeah.
I've kind of like.
I was going to say, like, what's happening in your country at the moment is, it's scary. It's like, it's actually, it's like, when you look back at history, there are these, what do they call them? The canaries in the coal mine. It's like it's like a sign of something that's wrong with the system, like, and I don't know whether it was just this latest Dumbledore that you guys had in the White House.
It's funny, like people. You mentioned Dumbledore, and because they just did like a gay Dumbledore thing, right, recently. And it's so funny to me that there's people who are like anti-woke or whatever. It's like, I wouldn't say that I'm the woke police or some social justice warrior, but it's silly to me to be like anti-woke, because it literally, the definition is like just wanting people to have equal rights no matter their color or sexual orientation. Like that's like what being woke is, being aware of injustices and stuff. It's like a weird thing to be against, like,
Yeah. I don't get it. It's like, it's almost like you see some people and you want to say to them, like, are you anti-people? Like, what is what's at the root of this? Like, is it just your disdain for people or what?
Well, it's sin. It's, I think it's sinful to be gay. Like that's just boils down to the religion. And that's why my focus on any activism in the future or whatever, for the most part, will always be focused on religion. Because in my opinion, I think it's the root of all the politics. I want a more secular society. I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's like, you cannot help but see. It was Hitchens who wrote that book, How Religion Poisons Everything, and it's it rings true. So so true. Anything that it touches, it tends to infect and poison with, like just barrels and barrels of bile and vile.
So, how secular is South Africa? Are you guys pretty decent?
In principle, in principle, we have.
Same with us, right?
Yeah, on paper it sounds great.
Right. Yeah.
On paper it sounds great, but we have an extremely traditional. You could call them conservative in your framework. The population is still extremely conservative, especially we basically have four major cities across the country. One metro zone is basically two cities, and in the urban zones it tends to be more liberal and more. How can I say, open to new ideas, whereas
I'm wondering if population has anything to do with it. Population size, like the more people there are, the more open and accepting they become.
Yeah, and it's also a matter of just access to information. It's almost like it's like there has to be an exchange of information and ideas within a population. If there's only ideas coming in, then it's not good. Like there has to be this osmosis thing, with there's information coming in and leaving it at the same time. And then then the society is healthy. Otherwise it tends to become like the Dead Sea, where there's only like water flowing in, nothing flowing out, and it becomes salty,
stagnant, and
and stagnant and salty at the end of the day. Yeah.
So I don't know if you mind if I ask you another question.
Of course, go ahead. By all means.
I'm just curious. Is what the demographics are like? Like, are there a couple main religions? Is it mostly one? Like, what's
predominantly Christian?
Okay.
Like when that's also the sad thing. The African culture in our country was whitewashed when the Europeans landed here. It was
kind of like everywhere, right?
I know that it's like Christianity is like a virus. Like it's virus is one of the only organisms that spreads by taking over a host, even at its own cost. Like it'll go and it'll destroy the host. Just for propagating itself. And it's it's the same thing here. Our I can say. Okay, we still have a very strong inkling towards tradition, and people are very rooted in traditional culture and everything, But there's been this very insidious influence, from the European settlers that that's everything's sort of like become anglicized, and So I don't know.
Is there a Muslim presence? Is it kind of small?
Very small. Very small. Yeah, very small. Yeah, I mean, like single digit percentages. Again, this was also due to I think it was immigration from there were during some stage there were especially here in the Western Cape, there's a large Muslim population. But it's again due to immigration. They're not they're not native to the like the only people who are native to Southern Africa are the indigenous tribes, so all the Islamic immigrants who came to settle here, the Dutch who came to settle here, they all brought their religion with them. It's a bit of an amalgamation. I mean, like we have 9 official languages in our country. We speak 9 official languages. Many different religious. The religious there's a big Hindu segment. They live on the east coast in the KwaZulu-Natal area. Then we have Islam, which is pretty sparsely propagated throughout the country, and then we have the Christianity. I'd say the majority of it is Christian, and then there's also some traditional. I'm not really sure if you can call them. I have to. It's not really within my wheelhouse to comment on this because it's not something that I'm very familiar with. But there is, traditional practices which also happens in culture. Whether you would call them religion or more
not like voodoo and stuff. Is that what you're?
No. That's the. It's more. There's. There is a. Like I said, again, it's not something that's in my wheelhouse, but there is a spiritual aspect to it, which involves like witch doctors and that kind of thing. But it's not in my wheelhouse to comment on, because it's something that I'm completely unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
Do
they like? Are they pretty accepting of atheists and stuff? Is it just live and let live kind of?
It's weird, like it's not really the average typical South African is usually quite shocked by finding an atheist because it's very unheard of, like it's something that people have got this in their makeup. People are raised this or It's part of that identity. So generally, when people encounter an atheist or a non-believer, or even somebody that has a weird esoteric kind of spiritual practice, they find it extremely shocking. But it's being normalized. There's more and more people who speak out about it, and that's also the purpose of our grouping over here, is just to create community. We create communities of like-minded people, and we nurture those communities. We interact with one another. We do these kind of shows. We introduce people to atheists from all over the world, just in an effort to normalize disbelief. Just to
important.
For people who see this, to just go like, hey, wait a minute, there's other people who also think like me. Like I'm not, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this.
It's kind of funny. Most people, like my family who are still Mormon, some of them at least, and like most of the Mormons that I interact with still, like I swear they just almost don't believe me that I'm actually an atheist. It's just like, oh, like he'll find God again. Like they just kind of brush it off like this is just some phase, and
this is just a phase that they're going through. He's having a rebellious stage. Just let him be.
I'm like 30 now. I think my rebellious stage is over. I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, where was I? I always.
Sorry to hijack the conversation.
No. No, I just want to be mindful. I just want to be mindful of your time and
I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm here to chat.
Good. Tell us a little bit about what are you passionate about? What are some of the things that that fuel your day to day? What drives you to get out the bed in the morning and fucking reach for your phone and go, wow, like religion is bullshit.
Well, as far as the religion stuff, I mean, I think at a young age, it kind of stunted my passion and like stunted my chase to find what I love, and because it was just confusing for me to grow up. Like, do I want this? Do I want that? But yeah, as far as like my real passion is probably writing, and conversations. I really do love just conversations like this, and that's half the reason I started up the TikTok. Is like I'm like the TikTok guy that's like replying to every comment on my video that disagrees with me, because I'm just like, I just want to talk to people. But yeah, I have a lot of just writings that have kind of gone nowhere, but I just kind of put them on the shelf. And
you need to blog them, put them in a blog.
Sure,
where people can find them. It also keeps it, in an archived form.
True, yeah. I'm very unorganized. Like I swear I just kind of write for myself, and then I just like with my expression,
more like a journal. No, I mean, ever since we've started organizing ourselves in a community, we found so many people that are passionate about just expression, and authentic expression of ideas, and it sounds to me like that's something that you also gravitate towards, because these now, with the age of information, everybody has got access to volumes of information, and there's so much junk to sift through. It's like when you find those type of content creators or people who give authentic expression, that's what people really love to, they gravitate towards it naturally. I mean, I really like to hear, that's something that you also, find interesting and gravitate towards. So, let's, it's the elephant in the room, but let's talk about the negative impact, that religion has in your life, firstly, and then just in your community at large. I mean, we always encounter these, when people deconvert and they start deconstructing their religions, there's a common thread of people telling these stories of them living in fear, of having unrealistic expectations put on them,
Right.
intolerance towards other people that's
Yeah.
bred into them, and also that kind of ignorance. Religion loves people to be that. Religion doesn't like smart people.
No, ignorance is bliss. Like my mom
Yeah.
literally told me that once when I was younger and I was questioning things, But it's true. Like going on this route of questioning things, it's kind of hard. Like it's made me sad. It's made me angry. I think I'm finally over that like angry atheist stage or whatever that a lot of people go through, because it's hard to deconstruct. It really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the pitfalls, I mean, I kind of already mentioned like my stunted critical thinking, my stunted passion finding. And another, I kind of went through some stuff as a kid, and I won't get too detailed, but like I really could have benefited, I think, from some therapy. And I never once was enrolled. It was always like, oh, let's talk to the bishop, let's pray. And it can be pretty damaging. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's like, whenever somebody recommends, whenever a child has problems and somebody recommends clergy, I immediately I'm going like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, and bless my parents' hearts. They were doing everything they thought was best, and I have no ill intent toward any of my family or anything, but
Exactly.
I think,
I also have the same experience. Like where you mentioned that it's natural. It's natural to be angry when you discover that you've been fooled.
right.
Like it's natural. If you weren't angry, if you just took it in your stride, then that should be a reason for concern. But anger is a very natural emotion to express when you realize that somebody's pulled the wool over your eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, the anger does subside, and you do come to terms with things, and you don't hold it against everybody. What I realized as well is that my parents were victims of this as well.
Right.
It's not that, like you said, they think that they are doing what is in your best interest, and this is part and parcel of that. So it's futile and non-productive to actually harbor resentments towards our parents for raising us
So true.
religion, because they sincerely thought that was in your best interest. So they thought that they were doing something that will actually benefit and help you. And yeah.
Well, and same to be said for just anyone else who's still a believer. And because I actually did a video on this recently, about just how atheists are kind of terrible sometimes when they're in this angry atheist phase, and they will just attack believers with no like even sound arguments. It's just like, you're an idiot. And it's kind of gone to the opposite side of just treating people poorly, and
it's counterproductive as well. It doesn't.
Exactly.
It feels good for the 5 seconds that you actually like own somebody by calling them stupid, and then going, this person called me stupid, So,
well,
and
conversation.
then it stops. It's a conversation stopper. It just kills. It kills any progress in a relationship, or or developing an understanding between people.
It shouldn't be a dunking contest, like it should be genuine conversation. I kind of have a bad habit of having empathy for like terrible people. So like, I don't know what it is. Like, I feel bad that their mind is that way, like it makes me sad because I know that deep down somewhere they were influenced in a way, and none of this is really any of our faults in any of the things that happen. But
it's like I said, everybody's a victim. It's
right.
We all victims of we have a lady in our groups who's very passionate about teaching critical thinking, and whenever this comes up, she always comes up in the back of my mind, because if we were taught at a very young age to think critically, we would not have stepped within this trap. It's all the religion, like I said, it's built on it's a house of wood built on a foundation of sand in a tidal zone.
Well, and that kind of goes toward the second part of your question there about kind of the effect on society as a whole, the pitfalls. And I really see it as like holding us back toward progress and like exploring space, and getting clean energy figured out. And it's just like this thing holding us back from the awesome things we could do.
Exactly. And the next person who was going to discover the quantum time travel space drive was probably some woman that's wrapped up in a burqa in the desert somewhere, but she doesn't have access to an education or access to, because of the religious intolerance towards her gender in a country. This is and this is, like you said, this is the harm that religion does, and it's
well, and it makes it like, it makes people not be okay with I don't know. And I think that's like so detrimental, because when we constantly don't know, we're constantly striving to figure it out. So when we've settled on, oh, God made everything, it's like, oh, there's nothing left to figure out. But there's no drive for like exploring the universe.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's so true what you say. It's just, for me, that the second I gave up, it was a big thing for me. I was very obsessed with this idea of roasting on Satan's spit. Satan's going to be grilling me on a spitfire. And as soon as I let go, as soon as I deconstructed that, and I said to myself, like, this, it's actually so irrational. I'm not scared of the hells of all the other 1,999 religions out there. I'm only scared about the hell of this one religion, and as soon as I let go of that, that belief, the freedom and that load that came off my shoulders, this constant, it's like Munchausen syndrome, Munchausen by proxy, where you actually like held hostage to, and in that case a person, but in this case an ideology. It just, it keeps on, holding you hostage, and it's not in a physical sense, it's in an emotional sense, where you are enslaved by this, this set of ideas. It just keeps you.
Well, it's funny with Mormonism. That's the one thing I really didn't deal with, because they don't believe in this fiery hell. They believe in So it's like kind of lucky.
I thought it was a flavor of Christianity. I didn't want to go there. To go into like the crazy Mormon beliefs.
Well, it is Christianity. Honestly, so they still think Jesus is the savior and stuff, but it's more compassionate of a punishment. There's 3 different kingdoms, and they're all better than Earth. So even if you make the lowest kingdom, like because you were bad or whatever, it's still
everybody goes to one of the 3. So it's everybody goes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. There's also outer darkness, but the way they teach it is that's meant for like only like Hitler, and like, even though I think the doctrine says apostates, which would be me. But outer darkness to me just sounds like ceasing to exist. So
it's like the lights off, nobody's home. No, it's very strange. Because I mean, it's in my opinion, it's it's a doctrine that rules by fear. It's something that rules by fear, and it's ever since a young child, like I hated being bullied or being like put in a position where I'm scared of something, like, if I was scared that there was going to be a test in school, I would study and prepare myself so well that I didn't have to be scared of it, like, and I think that's the thing that, like, as soon as I let go of that, and it's an irrational fear, it's completely irrational that we fear something that we have absolutely no evidence or idea of, but it's imprinted on your mind, in such an insidious way as a child. You grow up with this idea as part of your, frame of reference that, it really felt like being unshackled, it was just like a lot of
kind of
freedom.
like, it's almost like an abusive relationship. It's like, love me and I love you, but like, don't do this or I'm gonna hurt you. Like, but I love you. Like,
I do this because I love you so much. No, that's crazy. And just upon now in retrospect, like if you if you can reflect, like you did in that one TikTok, time travel back to your younger self. Like, what would you say, like if you could, like pick up the phone and call yourself like, a decade back or something, like what would you say, just to jumpstart, this journey? What?
Well, definitely, I think there would be a couple things, like, because that video, while it is like humorous, like that was a massive problem for me. Like, a horny teenager can't handle himself or whatever, but I was just so ashamed every time, and I'd pray and ask for forgiveness, and it's like, let it go, like you're fine. But
it's a cycle, like it's a perpetual cycle of guilt, shame, and then redemption and forgiveness, and then guilt and shame, and it's all based upon human nature. Like we are, that's our biological nature. Like we are biological creatures. We have we have all different proclivities, and and religion attempts to suppress just inherent human nature.
And they're like telling you a cure to, the things that they say are a problem. It's like, this is a problem, but it's okay. Here's the cure. When really it could just not be a problem. Real quick, a second part of that, it would be just, I would love to just tell my younger self to keep asking questions. I remember even as like a 6-year-old, my mom tucked me in one. I remember very vividly, I asked her, I was like, Mom, where did God come from? And she was like, oh, well, because Mormons believe kind of that everyone becomes a god. It's too much to explain, but she was like, well, he came from the God before him or whatever. And then I just kept going. I was like, well, where did that one? And then I was like, where did the first God come from? And ultimately the answer is like, we'll find out certain things when we die. But I wish that I would have kept that skepticism throughout my whole youth and just keep asking those questions.
I mean, like it's religion's kryptonite is questions and examination. It's like,
which is funny because the truth shouldn't be afraid of scrutiny. It should hold up through any scrutiny, right?
No, that's amazing. So I mean, this has been great fun. Like,
I've enjoyed it.
Very interesting meeting new people, and I think in conclusion, we can just maybe plug any of your socials. If you have something, I'll put a link to your TikTok in the description of the video when I load it to YouTube. Anything else that you want to plug, maybe?
No, so that's all I've started for now. My plan is to maybe get somewhat of a TikTok following, and then hopefully start kind of a YouTube channel similar to what you're doing, where I just want to have discussions with people. I don't want to like debate and do all that, but just have genuine conversations. So.
There are too many of these debate me, bro.
I know, yeah. like you said earlier, we're obsessed. It's our own fault that they exist. Yeah. We're obsessed with the drama, you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, just the TikTok for now. It's the Who is Sky Daddy's name. So
why did you choose that name?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I've been preparing the story. So I had a Christmas party with our friends, and we played this Christmas Jeopardy game. And you know the song that's like, I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath.
Yeah.
So the question was like, who was the character kissing Santa Claus or whatever? And I so confidently like stood up and was like, who is daddy? Even though it's supposed to be mommy. So everyone had a huge kick of that. And then from there, I was like, oh, who is Sky Daddy? Because I'm talking about atheism, you know?
Yeah. Funny, I chose, I at first I thought it was going to be very tongue-in-cheek, you know, to call myself Jesus's nutsack on on TikTok. You know, because somebody I used to have just my last name as my user handle, and when I made the first video, and somebody was like, hey, what's this all about? You know, like, are you trying to be like a potent force for making atheists now, or what? You know, so I said, where would that come from?
Yeah.
The potency comes from the nutsack, you know. And there I go. Yeah, I got it. You know, like, this is my username.
Oh, that's funny. So you still have that name? That's still your TikTok?
Yeah, I do. That's
okay. Yeah, because I remember when you DM'd me, I was like, I remember thinking something about Jesus something. I was like, what is this? It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, you know, obviously when I changed the handle, it was, you know, all the pill clutchers were like, oh, that's offensive, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck your offense, man. I don't care if you're offended. You know, like, that's what, you know, like, move on. You know, like, don't, you know, if you don't like to shop here, move on. Well, don't come and serve me your buffet of righteous indignation. I don't care.
Right. Well, I mean, they're one step away from just wanting to write blasphemy laws at that point. Yeah. Like, you know, I don't like the way you're talking about my God, and we're gonna make that a crime. So exactly. Stay strong with that username.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is ultimately, you know, the second you mentioned that, you know, like, something popped up into my head, you know, like, because this is their ultimate goal. You know, the ultimate goal of religion is to rob you of the freedom to express yourself freely. You know, it's you know, like Hitchens said, you know, like, it's a celestial North Korea that wants to impose its will upon you here, right, you know, while you're still alive. And I mean, like, who really wants that? You know, it's just, who wants to be a slave?
And it's so funny because there's like a growing movement of like conspiracy theorists here that are like super right wing. And during the whole COVID thing, like, their whole thing was calling us sheeple and sheep following the government. And it's so ironic because most of them are Christians and they literally call Jesus their shepherd. Like, bro, like, I don't get
it. It's like, do you have a mirror in your house? And you know, you want to say to them, like, hey.
Yeah. The irony, man.
Yeah. Well, Keaton, it's really been swell meeting you. Thank you for being so generous with your time. And I'll message you a link to the video as soon as I've posted it. And
awesome.
You know, if ever you need to reach out to somebody in South Africa for anything, just give us a shout.
For sure. If we ever go back there again, I'll be hitting you up for a beer or a
Yeah,
coffee or something.
gotta get some.
But yeah, I appreciate you inviting me on. This has been very pleasant for me. So
Amazing. Thank you, man. Take it easy.
all
Take
right,
care.
take care.
Bye.